The Oracle Network. Look deeper.
Do you often find that you need a distraction from everyday life?
Do you like true crime, conspiracy theories, paranormal stories, and other weird, dark tales?
Well, tune in and turn up Weird Distractions Podcast, where we, your hosts, Christy
and Alex,
bring you a weird distraction to help you get through the work week.
Every Sunday morning, you can find our show on Apple Podcasts, Anchor, Spotify, Good Pods, and more.
So, grab a snack, get comfy,
and make sure to lock those doors. Need a distraction? We got you.
Hey, Rainbow Warriors. This is my disclaimer. Beyond the Rainbow is a true crime podcast. It's not suitable for young children, and maybe not even for some adults. I tend to swear like a sailor, and I'm kind of proud of that. Listener discretion is advised. Hey there, Rainbow Warriors. Welcome to Beyond the Rainbow, True Crimes of the LGBT. I'm your host, CJ. My listener, Jamie in Marietta, Georgia. Hi, Jamie. Well, her kind email to me has inspired me to put out one more episode before the end of the year. So thank you, Jamie, for the motivation to do this. Also, Rainbow Warriors, if you missed the first round of Beyond the Rainbow sticker and magnet giveaway, I have more! Send me your mailing address via social media DM or email me at beyondtherainbowpod@gmail.com. And I'll send the next 15 listeners who send me their mailing address an It's Not a Crime to Be Gay sticker and a Beyond the Rainbow magnet for free! Now, who doesn't love free shit? And it's so fun to get a snail mail something that's not a bill. And please don't think, there's only a few she's sending out. If everyone thought that way, I wouldn't have anyone to send them to. DM me on Facebook at Beyond the Rainbow Pod or on Instagram and Twitter at Rainbow Crimes. My website is beyondtherainbowpodcast.com. And my email address, once again, is beyondtherainbowpod@gmail.com. And on tpublic.com, I have a new merch store. And there's some fun designs, if I do say so myself. I'll put the info in the show notes if you want to check it out. So, my house hunting trip to Las Vegas was fun. But honestly, I'm not so sure it's where I want to put my roots down. Finding somewhere that I really want to live has definitely been one of the more challenging tasks of my life. Health-wise, it can't be somewhere too cold. I'm starting to get old and my joints ache. It can't be too dry because that's bad for my sinuses and my skin. And it has to be somewhere I feel safe living my truth as a lesbian woman. Preferably a community with other LGBTQ people. My upcoming New Year's resolution will be to find that house. This episode's missing but not forgotten LGBTQ person is Hector Rivera. Although it's been nearly 21 years since Hector disappeared, he has friends who still miss him very much. Hector would now be 42. He went missing at the age of 21 on January 27, 2000, from possibly the Santa Ana area of California. It seemed to start as a normal day for Hector. He got into his new 1999 black Chevy S10 standard two-door pickup truck, and he went to the gym located on Jamboree in Irvine. He then went to the Boom Boom Room in Laguna Beach, about a half an hour from Santa Ana. Boom Boom Room was an LGBTQ bar that was well known in Laguna Beach until it closed its doors in 2007, and it became the Bear Flag Fish Company restaurant. After that, Hector was going to visit a friend in Aliso Viejo, about 15 minutes from the bar. He then was either on his way back home to Santa Ana, or I've also seen it suggested that Hector might have been driving to the San Francisco area and he could have been driving there to meet an unknown person. But in either case, his last known stop was in Fountain Valley. He needed to get gas for his truck. From there, it would have been a 15-minute drive to his home in Santa Ana, or a 6.5-hour drive to San Francisco. After that, Hector just vanished. It was initially speculated that Hector might have just disappeared because of his sexual orientation. He wasn't readily accepted by his family. But Hector did have plenty of friends who did accept him. And after 21 years, he should have resurfaced by now. Hector's black Chevy S10 pickup, it's never turned up either. Hector was a very outgoing guy, super friendly. He was in good shape and he stood between 5'5" and 5'7". He also weighed about 140 pounds at the time. He's Hispanic and bilingual. He had no known tats or piercings at the time he disappeared. I know that 21 years seems like a long time ago, but somebody must know something. Please take a look at the Charlie Project page on Hector. I'll put it on my website and include it in the show notes. Anonymous tips can be made via email to helpfindhector@gmail.com. Any information could bring so much comfort to the loved ones who miss him dearly. I want to remind you, Rainbow Warriors, if by chance you're going to go meet someone, tell anyone, a family member, a close friend. Give that person the full name of who you're going to meet. Give them a phone number, an email. Give them as much information that you can so you don't end up missing. My daughter was meeting someone from Tinder once, and she explained that her mom has a true crime podcast and is a major worrywart. The guy was nice enough to take a photo of his driver's license and text it to her. They met at a very crowded public coffee shop. Plus, she lets me have her location finder on her phone. It just brings me a little comfort to be able to check on her when she's out and about. And it's so good to have a person in your life that you can trust with vital information about yourself. The case I'm about to share with you in this episode is so very disturbing to me. It happened Friday, the 21st of September, 2018. A 33-year-old man named Zak Kostopoulos was murdered on a busy street during daylight in a downtown outdoor-type shopping mall in Athens, Greece. At least 100 people watched it go down. In the end, 6 men were accused of Zak's murder and put on trial. Let's start by learning a little bit about Zak. He was born Zacharias Kostopoulos in the United States on August 22, 1985, to Greek parents. Zak, who was the sign of Leo, was his parents' firstborn child. Zak was sweet and loved very, very much. When Zak was 8 years old, his folks decided to move back to their small village in Greece. This became a huge culture shock for little Zak, but he eventually adapted. As an adult, Zak stayed very close to his family. Even coming out didn't deter his family from accepting him for who he was. And that's how it should be for everyone. Zak never tried to hide who he was either. He'd walk down a street in all his fabulousness, while insults and hate spews would be hurled at him. But Zak still held his head up proudly. Actually, the country of Greece has been pretty good with LGBTQ rights. Same-sex activity in relationships has been recognized as legal since 1951. Unfortunately, as with everywhere in the world, there is still hate for some LGBTQ members, no matter what the advancement in the laws are. Zak had contracted HIV, but he managed to live a quality life with the virus. He was a drag queen with the name Zackie Oh, which is just an awesome drag name, and a play on the iconic Jacqueline Onassis, who went by Zackie Oh. Zak worked for the Athens Checkpoint, which is an HIV prevention center. He also was an LGBTQ activist and a journalist for a newspaper. In his columns, he wrote about human rights, sexuality, and HIV. Zak seemed like he was a fun dude and an all-around good guy. But that fateful September day in 2018, the public in general gave no fucks that Zak was a good guy. They gave no fucks he was a talented performer, a gifted writer, a beloved son, sibling, and friend. Okay, so what I'm about to tell you is mostly based on CCTV footage and a video that was taped by somebody at a nearby restaurant. I watched the beating and murder of Zak on YouTube, but I also saw it from a company that Zak's parents hired called Forensic Architecture. If you haven't heard of Forensic Architecture, it's so cool. The company is based in London, and they investigate human rights violations by police, governments, militaries, and corporations. They go after the big guys who think they can get away with everything just based on who they are. Using state-of-the-art technology, they tell a story of what happened with the videos they put together. The company put out a 6.5-minute video online of Zak's attack and death that day. I'll put the link in my show notes, and if you get a chance, I highly recommend watching it. It will absolutely infuriate you and have you asking so many questions about humanity. On September 21st, 2018, it's about 2:45 in the afternoon, on a busy street in Athens, Greece. Zak is seen walking towards a storefront. It's a bakery. He tries to walk in, and 3 men approach him. One hands Zak a bottle of water. That's pretty friendly. One of the men you can't really see, and the third is a man wearing a yellow t-shirt. He's standing in front of the bakery's door. As Zak tries to enter the bakery, the yellow t-shirt dude appears to block Zak's way. And then it looks like he might even put his hands on Zak, as if he's pushing Zak back a little. Zak looks like he's trying to get away from this seemingly irate man. It does look like the man who handed Zak the water tries to verbally intervene, but I'm not so sure it was on Zak's behalf. However, the diversion did allow Zak ample time to leave the front of the bakery and flee across on the other side of the mall, where he retreats to what he thinks is safety inside a jewelry store. This store was not Zak's safe spot. In fact, when Zak entered, the doors of the jewelry store seemed to be locked from the inside, trapping any would-be customer inside the shop. If this was the case, I would think that there'd be some major fire violations attached to this. But a fire was really the least of worries for Zak, and to this day it remains a mystery as to why the jewelry store was locked from the inside out. Caged in this jewelry store, Zak is all alone on the inside. The man in the yellow t-shirt is seen outside the jewelry store on the sidewalk in front of the shop. Pretty soon a crowd gathers, watching Zak trying to get out of his cage. Within seconds, the man in the yellow t-shirt is on his cell phone walking back and forth. He kind of reminded me of a lion at the zoo, walking back and forth in front of the glass, sizing up the crowd that came to view him. But the man in the yellow t-shirt was not the one who was caged. It's Zak. The jewelry store is behind all glass. Windows, doors, etc. Maybe aquarium, not cage, is a better comparison. Zak is seen trying to break out of the jewelry store doors, but they won't open. He picks up a fire extinguisher and half-heartedly swings it at the glass. The doors aren't budging. I must say, Zak looks exhausted, defeated, and you find yourself wondering what's wrong with him. If it were me locked in there, I'd be beating on the doors, making eye contact with the people outside, yelling, "Get me out!" Frustrated from not being able to break through the glass doors, Zak crawls under a glass display case, and he tries to push his way out of the glass storefront. At this time, you see 2 older-looking men dressed in slacks and pastel dress shirts outside on the sidewalk. Apparently, one of these men is the owner of the jewelry store. It's really odd that he's on the outside of his store looking in. Both of these men start to kick at the storefront where Zak is on his hands and knees trying to escape. These men have so much energy behind their kicks. The kicks are hard and powerful and end up breaking the glass. The kicks start landing square into Zak's head. In spite of the oncoming trajectory shoes attached to feet and legs zeroing in on his head, Zak's able to slither across the broken glass out onto the sidewalk. This is where the 2 older men continue to kick Zak, and one stomps directly into Zak's head. The velocity of that kick stops Zak's movement entirely for a moment. Zak is bloody, having been cut from some of the shards of glass, and possibly from some of the kicks into his skull. The crowd, the public just stop and watch like this is some freaking form of entertainment for them. Some just stand over him, not seeing if he's all right. One of the older men who kicked Zak, I presume it to be the jewelry store owner, stood guard over Zak and his store until a policeman showed up. When the cop came, he just stood over Zak also, looking at him. The yellow t-shirt guy is still on the phone, and you can hear his end of the conversation to the person he called. He tells whoever's on the other end of the phone,
"Yes, him. He was at the corner of Venetis, come."
Yellow t-shirt dude then approached the cop. He put his hand on the cop's shoulder and said,
"No, it's not his neck, it's his head in his hand."
The yellow t-shirt dude then backed away and continued to watch with the rest of the crowd. The policeman spoke over his walkie-talkie to someone, and he continued to stand over Zak. As Zak finally started to move parts of his body again, an EMT arrived and he knelt down over Zak's head. He appeared to say something to Zak. Zak slowly pulled himself upright, stood up, and staggered off a few steps down the sidewalk. He tries to catch himself on a nearby table, which this became apparent later from a big blood-stained handprint on one of the tables, but Zak fell to the ground again, at which point at least 8 more policemen swarmed Zak. Huddled over him like a rugby team with the ball, you see at least 3 of these cops kicking Zak where he lay. It's all so freaking unsettling. And what's even more confusing, huddled with the cops is the dude in the yellow t-shirt. No other civilian is in that huddle but this guy. The cell phone is no longer in this guy's hand. What is in his hand is a telescopic type cane or club, something that kind of looks like a cop's baton. And it's funny really because one of the cops is also shown holding the exact same baton. Coincidence? I don't know. It made me wonder if this yellow t-shirt guy was an off-duty cop. Police claim they had no idea who this man was. Zak was only half alive when he staggered down the sidewalk. After the cops were done with him, Zak's life was over. Forensic architecture were much more kind about the yellow t-shirt dude than I have been. They called him a witness. I call him an instigator and the reason for Zak's untimely death. Had this peckerwood not instilled fear into Zak, Zak wouldn't have had to run and try to hide in that shitty-ass, most likely overpriced jewelry store, only to be attacked by 2 old men in Easter egg-colored button-down shirts. What the fuck is wrong with people? The 2 old farts with their fancy blouses were arrested. And it turns out that the other old fart, who wasn't the jewelry store owner, was the jewelry store owner's friend. And he owned a real estate company. After Forensic Architecture's case study came out, 4 officers were also arrested. Enter the media into the picture. News stations started to interview the assailants, the jewelry shop owner. The owner said that Zak was a would-be robber who broke his window trying to escape. He cut himself on the shards and died right there on the spot. The owner also said,
"When someone comes into your store, you just go crazy."
Isn't the point of having a fucking store so people will come in and buy your merchandise? If you go crazy every time someone enters your store, you are in the wrong business. After more of the media's sensationalization came about, not only was Zak ID'd as a robber, but now he apparently was equipped with a knife and or a gun, making him an armed robber. In court, the jewelry store owner claimed self-defense, and he testified he saw Zak come in with a weapon. He said Zak was looking for money and even threw the cash register to the ground to get at it. He said he was in fear for his life. Okay, so what part of this statement makes any sense at all in correlation to the video that was taken? If Zak was really there to rob you, he was trapped in your store, you idiot. You leave him there and you call the police. You weren't fearing for your life. You consciously made the decision to hurt him. You were the attacker. Lies. Lies to save your ass and give a lame excuse for taking another man's life. Why so much hatred from these attackers? The other old fart, the real estate business owner, he said yes, he kicked the glass, but only after Zak had broken the glass and was crawling out. He kicked the glass so Zak wouldn't cut his throat on the shards. The videotape doesn't show anything that even resembles this man attempting to help Zak. It only shows him harming him. The real estate owner also said Zak was a junkie, high on drugs and alcohol. Initially, I thought Zak might be on something too by his weak attempt at trying to get out of the jewelry store. But his autopsy report came back and there was nothing in his system. I can only surmise his behavior was due to fear for his safety. Again, I ask, why so much hatred from these men towards Zak? The old farts are politically far-right sympathizers, conservative business owners, Greek Trumps possibly. Did Zak come across effeminately enough to make these men hate him for his sexual identity? None of this is known, only speculated. The media reported all the garbage the two old farts spewed to them as truth. The narrative was basically Zak was a drugged-out junkie who was at the jewelry store for armed robbery, and essentially he had death coming to him that day. The public seemed to agree the shopkeeper used self-defense to keep himself safe from the armed junkie. It didn't matter that Zak was trapped inside and the shopkeeper was on the outside with hundreds of people. Even with Zak almost already completely dead, the police treated the investigation as though Zak were indeed an armed robber, although Zak entered through the front open doors. No weapon was ever found and nothing was ever taken from the store. There was no money or jewelry in Zak's possession. 4 of the 8 police officers surrounding Zak's body that day were charged with fatal bodily harm. And they were the ones to kick Zak, use their telescopic club on him. And one cop even stood on Zak's throat. Their defense claimed they used legal police violence in apprehending and securing the already half-dead blood-soaked man. Zak's hands were handcuffed behind him as he lay on a stretcher with no pulse on his way to the hospital. At the hospital, he was pronounced dead at 3:15 p.m. The end of Zak Kostopoulos' life took about a half an hour from start to finish. The EMTs didn't even try to perform life-saving measures, nor did they say anything to the police about Zak's hands being cuffed behind him, which made life-saving procedures impossible anyway. No siren or lights were put on in the ambulance. No one gave a flying fuck about Zak that day, and I honestly don't know why. What we didn't see on closed-circuit TV or the video that was taken by the restaurant patron happened prior to the bakery. Zak was riding the metro into downtown Athens. He was on the phone with a female friend. He told his friend, "Don't hang up, there's a reason." And the friend asked, "Are you in danger?" Zak replied, "I don't know, maybe." The last thing the friend heard before the call ended on Zak's end was Zak saying to someone, "Excuse me, can I ask you something?" Then nothing on the phone. A few minutes later, upon exiting the metro, Zak approached 2 girls in a crosswalk. He said to them he needed help, but the girls didn't see any peril coming Zak's way, and they chose to ignore him. And we only know that because they came forward after Zak's murder, and they testified to it in court later. So who was Zak talking to on the metro? Who did he want to ask something? Could it have been the dude in the yellow t-shirt? If it was Zak asking something offensive? Yellow t-shirt dude was eventually found 6 months later. He's a 44-year-old man who came forward as a witness for the police. He claimed the police did no wrongdoing on their part. He also said he didn't come forward before on his own because he had children at home he wanted to protect. What does that even mean? How is he endangering his children by coming forward? He also said he was holding the police baton because it happened to drop on the ground, and he picked it up. It's odd he's the only civilian seen near Zak when the police were huddled around him. And that was the extent of Yellow Shirt's culpability according to the justice system. Who was Yellow T-shirt dude on the phone with telling him,
"It's him, come"?
Media framed Zak for being a junkie who was committing armed robbery when all of it was untrue. What really was the involvement of Yellow T-shirt dude? The trials of the 6 accused men in Zak's death is ongoing. Amnesty International is still investigating the murder, trying to find more witnesses and the real truth behind it all. If any more news comes to light on this case, which it just has to, I'll be sure to bring it to you, warriors, because there's something very amiss about this case. In the meantime, love you guys. Fuck off, 2020. Happy New Year, Rainbow Warriors. And remember, it's not a crime to be gay, unless you're a murderer.